This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
Here at Dapper Dad's dinner table today, it's going to be a great session. We've got the grill roll and smoke. It's going to be steak with steak, a side of steak, and then a little more steak. So be sure to stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode, and everybody's getting the meat sweats. You're all invited to the barbecue. Welcome back to the Dapper Dad's dinner table. This is going to be a really special show. It's going to be about steak with a side of steak, a little more steak, and some steak on top of that. We'll call it the steak episode, #meat sweats. If you haven't seen any of my other episodes, you definitely have got to watch this one. Then I want you to feel really bad and go back and watch all the other episodes as well. I went by the butcher shop. I've got a couple steaks here. I'm gonna have some of the fellas over later, but first I want to introduce you to a really special friend of mine, Jason.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
Thanks for having me today.
Jason is a really great friend of mine, father of two as well. I've actually learned a lot. He won't admit it, but I've learned a lot about cooking from Jason. Jason has worked in many restaurants. He's been in the culinary field for pretty much your whole life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when there's certain things that I get bored with and I want to reach out, I reach out to this guy and I ask him for some advice. So it's really a pleasure to have you here with us today to talk about some steaks.
Yeah, one of my favorites. I'm glad we're gonna get to do this together.
I do think it's probably my favorite protein of all, like steak, and followed up maybe with a little bit of seafood, some fresh catch, right? Because I know you like to fish as well.
Yeah, we do some surf and turf sometimes, which is really awesome. I know we were down in the islands on vacation and had a nice surf and turf there. So I'm really pumped to see what you have today from the butcher shop, and let's walk through it.
Okay, well, let's go ahead. We'll start over here. Now, most commonly, we've got a couple of very popular cuts of meat, and then I've got a couple other great cuts of meat, super tender, but probably a little lesser known unless you've made friends with a local butcher or you shop at a local butcher shop. Probably not stuff that you're gonna see readily available in your grocery store, but you can always ask the butcher counter at your grocery store if they have any that's available too. So, first we'll start off with what I think is a very traditional, good old-fashioned strip steak. This is a New York strip. This is a prime New York strip that I got from the butcher shop down the street. What I like about these, typically a New York strip, pretty affordable, lots of great flavor, and I think lots of different applications and uses. You can do it whole, slice it up, serve it as it is.
Yeah, I think this one's great. The marbling here looks fantastic. It's one of the classic steaks I think most people are familiar with. It's one of my favorite. And this one, again, it really looks awesome.
So when we're looking for a New York strip, what are we looking for? I know it's always got that little fat cap on the end, a little bit on the tip there. Is that, do we want a lot of that, a little bit of that? What's your preference?
I mean, for me, I like to keep a little bit of the fat cap. What's most important, I think, when you're shopping is to try to find some really solid marbling here. And like I said, this one looks really great. You don't see any additional veins or anything like that you might see on the tail end of the full strip. So I think, again, this one looks fantastic.
Now, when it comes to like a New York strip, what would you, I know we're just doing meat here, but like what's a good dish? Just grill it, maybe baked potato. What are you going for?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the season and who's at the table. But for me, in the warmer weather months, I love just grilled sliced with a great salad. Get into cooler weather months, obviously potatoes are going to be my first go-to, whether that's a mashed potato or baked potato loaded with all the great toppings. But they really stand alone and really the highlight of the plate, no matter how you pair it.
My favorite potato with steak is kind of funny, but like people might think it's funny, is I like fries.
Oh, steak frites.
Steak frites, like long, crispy, thin shoestring fries.
Yeah.
Hey, some potato wedges even. Yeah, that's great. Cool. Yeah, like I said, New York strip I think is pretty readily available. You can grab one of those at just about any grocery store or local butcher shop. Another thing I like to look for is I like to make sure that it's kind of thick. Yeah. It's not too thin. This one I'd probably say is just right at about an inch thick, and I think that's perfect. Anything more than that, there's nothing wrong with it, but it is gonna take a little bit longer to sear on the outsides and get the inside to the proper temperature. I think this is probably perfect size. Anything thinner than that is gonna cook really quickly, but hey, that makes great for a quick steak sandwich or something as well, like a lunch sandwich or something, right?
I think this is a good call out though. When you're shopping or talking to your butcher, I think starting at an inch to an inch and a half is a really good standard. And then if you want to show off and you have the time and you want a really nice thick one that you really want to, again, show off for your friends, push up to 2 inches.
I like it. I like it. All right, next up, we've got the ribeye. Now this ribeye doesn't have the bone. It's not a bone-in ribeye. It's just a straight up ribeye. We'll go ahead and get that here. Now, I wouldn't say a similar cut, and we'll go ahead and cover that up so we just focus on this one. But once again, you've got the fat, you've got the marbling, and the thing I notice about the ribeye too is it's always got that little dollop of fat in the middle there. What are you looking for when you're looking for a good ribeye? Too much marbling, not enough?
Well, again, marbling is always important to me. The fat and the marbling in there is really going to give you a lot of flavor. It's really going to make the steak shine. When you look at the ribeye, you have the heart of the ribeye and the cap.
Okay.
This one's awesome because you have kind of relatively even balance between the cap and the eye. And this fat, a lot of people are like, oh, that's too much fat. But when you cook this one just right, that's going to melt in your mouth, and that's
render down.
My favorite. Like if we're talking about, your strip, ribeye, filet mignon, beef tenderloin, whatever. This is the one I would lean to in that area because I like that fat and the marbling that's there.
Another good, you may have seen a lot, you've seen a lot of them probably on social media and things like that, is the cowboy ribeye that's got the bone on it. That's always, like I said, you want to impress some friends when you come over. Get you a nice big thick one of those with the big bone, the tomahawk bone on it. Put that on the grill. I think that's always just got really cool presentation.
Yeah, big show, right?
Big show. But the thing about it too is that they're usually so massive that you can slice that off and feed 4 or 5 people.
Yeah,
you don't need one per person.
That's perfect for a dinner party.
Yeah,
right?
for a dinner party.
Yeah, but you're talking about the thickness before. Again,
this is just a little bit thicker, I think. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, this is right up my alley.
So when I used to travel a lot with a lot of guys, and we used to love to grill steaks. And one of the things that I always would hear people say when picking out a ribeye is, get one with a lot of fat in it, man. That's where all the flavor comes from. But I think there is a happy medium because I notice a lot of times when I get a steak like that, it takes a longer time for that to render down. And then I've finished my steak and I've got this chunk of like half-cooked gristle and fat on my plate.
Yeah, I think again, we were talking about the head or the tail of the whole strip loin. It's similar with the ribeye. You really want to try to, especially if you're talking to your butcher, get something out of the heart of the ribeye. So you're going to get what we think is, or what I think is, the great fat there, but you're not going to end up with more connective tissue or some additional gristle and pieces like you mentioned.
And that's what makes the steak kind of, not tough, but it gives you those chewy bits, so to speak, and everything that you're not looking for.
If you're shopping, I think that's the benefit of getting to know your butcher, or even if you shop at a grocer where they have a pretty solid meat counter. Get to know those guys. They'll help you.
Definitely. Jason brought up a really good point there. If you have a local butcher shop, hey, we always want to try to buy local and support our community and everything, and I think that's great. But if you don't have one of those ready available, if you ever notice when you go to your favorite grocery store, usually you see the same couple guys and girls working in the butcher shop. They'll remember you, trust me. Kind of make friends with them, ask them hey, what's looking good today? Tell them what you're doing. Many times I'll go to my local grocery store and I'll say, hey, can I help you? Like, yeah, man, I'm grilling out today. Had a strip last week. I've had a ribeye. What's something different I can try? What do you got that's going to be great on the grill this weekend? And they'll be more than happy to share their expertise with you, show you what they've got and what they think will be good, and probably even give you some great tips for some sides and some seasonings to go along with it.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the cowboy ribeye with the big bone and the show piece. If you don't see those at your grocer, if you talk to those guys, they'll help you special order one if you know you have a party.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. If they don't have them in the back, they just, like I said, they take up a lot of space, so they might just keep them in the back ready for people to ask for them.
Awesome. What else do we have here?
Okay, so now we're gonna wrap these bad boys back up here just for a second.
I'm excited to see what these are.
Okay, so these are some great, but I would venture to say probably a little lesser known cuts. And I learned, let me see which one we have here. I forgot which one we put down. Wait, this is the yes, okay.
Hanger.
So what we've got here is a hanger steak called the butcher's cut, the butcher's steak, the one the butcher kept, because there's only one hanger steak per cow. I stumbled upon this with my local butcher. I went to him and I did the same thing I just recommended everybody do. You got to practice what you preach. I said, man, I'm tired of ribeyes. I'm tired of strips. I don't really want to do a fillet. I want something that's flavorful. What's something new? And he says, have you ever had a hanger steak? I says, no, I haven't. Haven't had a hanger steak. He recommended the hanger steak, how to, kind of give it just a little bit of very simple olive oil, salt, pepper, herb marinade, and then how to grill it off. Honestly, I like hanger steak more than I like filet these days, and it costs a lot less than a filet as well.
Yeah, honestly, if I could only have one steak, this would be the one. If I could only eat one steak for the rest of my life, it would be the hanger steak.
I think you're good there. You can make it medallions. You can, like it says, once again, hanger steaks, they can be a little bit longer than this.
Yep.
I know this one's trimmed down for us here,
yep.
But once again, it's another like great to put on like a little steak steak platter
yeah.
with some simple salt and pepper for me, maybe a little bit of butter, some herbs.
So this has some of the deepest beef flavor. There's a bit of marbling. Cooked to medium rare, I think, is the perfect temperature for this. When you get above medium rare, it starts to you start to get a little bit more texture and chew. But medium rare, perfect balance, and I like salt and pepper, little on the heavy side with both. And you mentioned French fries, steak frites with a hanger steak.
Oh, cool.
That's it.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to remember that. I'll have to remember that one. That's great.
This one made my day so far.
This is I knew you'd like to get a hanger steak. All right, then we've got two more steaks here. We're gonna go in this one. This one is a Denver steak. So once again, lots of marbling. Probably about 3/4 of an inch thick, no fat cap all around, but like I see a lot of great marbling within the steak.
Yeah.
I'm gonna slide this out of the way, and we'll just kind of put this on the tray here like this so we can kind of. So, Denver steak, I'm sure it has something to do with Denver, Colorado, but where does the Denver steak come from?
Yeah, it's near the blade. It's between the flat iron and a shoulder blade.
Okay.
You see the marbling, which is really nice. I think if you handle this, it feels a bit more dense, kind of than the strip or the ribeye. So you can get away with a little bit thinner cut. The marbling, again, like you mentioned, is great. For me, I like this one sliced. I like to
nice thin slices.
Get a hard sear on it. Cut it across the grain. Again, probably with a salad, I think. Or you talked about a steak sandwich. This makes a great steak sandwich.
Oh yeah, I've done that before too. And I don't know if we can see here, like you can kind of see how the marbling throughout, it kind of just spiders throughout. It's not, you don't, like I said, we don't have the fat cap on the end and everything. The marbling kind of just really spiders throughout it right there, which I think like cooked properly, like you said, high heat real quick is gonna help get a nice crust on that, as well as it's gonna go ahead and help that fat render down and produce that flavor that everybody likes when it comes to a steak, when it comes to fat on a steak.
Yeah, and this is a value. Like if you see these, or if you're asking for these in your butcher shop, this is probably one of the most economical cuts that you're going to find that's going to give you this much flavor.
And a lot of versatility. Another great thing that I learned from my butcher about the Denver steak is food prep. This is a great steak that, like you said, for sandwiches and things like that, but this is a great steak that you can sear off on a Sunday afternoon, slice it, and then make salads. Make a couple salads for the week. Probably put them separate, just heat them up real quick. You can heat them back up in a pan if you're at work and you've got to use a microwave. Really low temperature, really low amount of time, just to take the chill off of it and everything. And I think it bounces back really well when reheated as a leftover, so to speak.
Yeah, a lot of people are meal prepping these days, and I think you're right. If you do a Sunday and you want to cook off a couple of these and portion them out and put them with the accompaniment, or if you're going to make sandwiches, I think this really is a good meal prep. Cook ahead.
Well, we've got one
more
last steak.
Let's see what it is.
Let's see what this one is here. All right. This one will be the Terrace Major.
Yeah, that one looks. I don't know what. You may not want to give away who your butcher is. He's treated you really well today.
Well, thank you.
You must be a special customer.
I do shop there a lot, but I haven't gotten the fans and family discount yet. But I'm still working on it. Once again, I think it's just another kind of like little known, lesser known. It's not that it's obscure, but I think if you're outside of like a good friend as a butcher or a culinary circle, this might not be something, or this might be something that you see at the grocery store and you say, Terrace Major.
What do I do with that?
I don't even know where to, so, and I think, once again, a lot of people, you're used to what a traditional steak looks like. You've got the marbling, you've got the fat cap and everything, and you get something like this. It looks a little bit, if I dare to say, this is probably a little bit leaner of all the other steaks that we've got here. Well,
it's interesting, and I think a lot of people refer this as the shoulder tender.
Okay.
And that tender is, they're kind of leaning towards the tenderloin, right? So you can kind of see that it's barrel shaped. It's a lot leaner. For me, rare to medium rare, good flavor. But if you like beef tenderloin and you're looking for value,
this is where it's at, the Terrace Major?
This is the way to go. So you're right, not as much fat, but still a ton of flavor. And there are a lot of people who love a leaner cut of meat, and this one delivers.
We're gonna go ahead and set these out.
Okay.
So we can get ready for the grill, and we talk about how do you like to season your steaks? We mentioned the salt and pepper, any types of oils or butters or olive oil, anything like that?
For me, if I'm going on a grill, just a light coating of oil.
Yeah, that's a big steak.
I saw in one of your other episodes you referenced avocado oil.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really great oil to use because of the smoke point. It's really kind of neutral. So it's going to let the steak deliver, and you're not going to have any issues on a grill that's really hot.
A couple other things for our viewers. A lot of people think that you've got to marinate a steak. I typically think marinating steak is for your, your tougher cuts that need to have the sinews and the break down a little bit more and things like that. Like probably more like you said, your flat iron or your skirt steaks and things like that to marinate them to get a little more flavor into it. But these, with the amount of fat and the location of the muscles and everything, I think they carry a lot of their own flavor. But what's your take? I mean, which one would you marinate?
If I were to choose what to marinate on these trays, I would probably start here. It's going to be the Denver steak.
The Denver steak, okay.
Yeah, so the Denver steak is the one that I would probably marinate first, leaning towards flavor profile of chimichurri, a little bit of acid, so oil, herbs, that kind of profile is the way I would lean. Second, maybe the hanger steak, but I wouldn't marinate it too long, just to impart some flavor. I would probably go garlic heavy, again, maybe some herbs. But yeah, garlic is probably the focus that I would use in my marinade there.
The last time I marinated a hanger steak, I used some olive oil. Mm-hmm. I chopped up some parsley, I used some thyme, a little bit of garlic, like you said, salt and pepper, and I kind of just put it in a Ziploc bag, and not a whole ton of oil, but just enough to coat it, and just almost kind of like a dry marinade, not really a wet marinade, but kind of just to coat it, and let all those herbs stick on it and everything, and just kind of left it in the fridge for about an hour and a half, and then took it to the grill right there. And I thought it was pretty good. I probably could even do something like that overnight. For more. But yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think probably 6 to 24 hours on these cuts is the range. And if you're going for a lower amount of time, you could make that a little bit more bold. A little bit more herb, a little bit more acid. The longer you go, you want to kind of balance it out for the extra 18 hours.
Well, another thing I wanted to bring up, now we are going to be grilling. We've got the charcoal going for the charcoal grill. Gas grill is just fine too. But I know what you're saying. You're saying, Tim, it's raining. I'm not going to fire up my grill when it's raining. I live in an apartment or a condo. I'm not allowed to have a grill. I'm sure you got a frying pan or a skillet. You can do just as good a job getting a nice sear and a nice thin crust on a steak in any type of, I prefer a cast iron skillet because it's going to hold the heat and get scorching. Key with a skillet is using an oil with a high smoke point. Olive oil, sorry, not an olive oil, an avocado oil, maybe even like a grapeseed oil or something like that has a really high smoke point. You're gonna wanna get that skillet scorching hot because even though you'd like to let the steak sit out for at least like a half an hour, before cooking, take the chill off of it. You don't want it to get to room temperature, but I always take my steaks out a good half hour before I'm ready to put them to the grill to take some of the chill off of it. But the internal temperature is still gonna be pretty cold. So make sure you get that skillet scorching hot to where you see a little bit of smoke coming off of there. Make sure you got your hood on and then drop that steak in there. Now, a fun joke I always talk about, or not even a joke, but I always ask everybody, how many times do you flip a steak?
Oof.
There's two schools of thought.
I flip the least amount of times possible.
I like that. I like that.
If we're on a grill and I want to get nice marks, I'm going down. My time. I'm gonna angle it.
Diagonal.
Yep.
Get that crosshatch.
Then I'm gonna make a flip.
Yep.
And then I'm gonna turn it again.
Okay.
And then hopefully I'm coming off the grill.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. I remember when I was younger and I was reading this. I was one of those guys magazines, and it said you flip a steak once and only once. And I was like, man, that's a lot of room for error in there if you flip it a little early. I don't like that.
If you're in a skillet, I'm of that school. You're trying to get a nice crust, flip it, get your second crust, and
definitely.
Ready to
but
go.
I like that technique, like as little as possible.
Yeah.
But hey, you might have to flip it again. Okay, great. Let's get these seasoned up. and then head out to the grill.
Yeah, we were talking about salt and pepper and potentially some other seasonings. So why don't we do a comparison? We'll do salt and pepper here, and then a couple varieties
Couple varieties, and see how that goes. Yeah, definitely. All right, let's start off. Got a little salt and pepper. The most important thing, I think, before seasoning and before taking it out to the grill is making. We've already patted these down, but it's making sure your steak is dry. Same thing with when you're cooking salmon or anything. Pat it with a paper towel, make sure that it's really dry. That's gonna make that good like contact with the grill. The moisture is gonna kind of like just sizzle off, and you're gonna think, oh, it's sizzling. It's just cooking off the water and moisture that was on it before. So we wanna get it good on there. So like, yeah, let's start with this. I think we just go ahead and salt these and pat it in, and we maybe put some avocado oil, brush these.
Yeah, with these and the other seasonings.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll start off with a little salt. Like I said, get a good little grip there. Hold it up high. We don't wanna dump it in one spot. You're gonna make a little bit of a mess, but that's why we got a tray underneath there. Now, I'm gonna do that. Then we're gonna go a little pepper. Fresh ground is the way to go, but hey, if you don't have a pepper grinder, just put some pepper on there, pepper flakes on there.
I think it's a good thing to call out too. We're looking at thicker cuts of meat here. So a little heavier seasoning when you're at that 1.5 to 2 inch mark versus maybe on the Denver, so that as you're eating through that thick steak, you're getting the flavor profile with every bite.
Now, we season both sides of the steak, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. Salt. Now, when it comes to a steak this thick, I know when you're barbecuing, you're putting rub, you want to get it all covered. Do we pay attention to the sides of the steak as well and get a little seasoning on there?
Yeah, you can, absolutely. Never gonna hurt. And we talked about flipping.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do stand up on that fat side, especially the larger the steak is.
I think that's a must, and I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
So yeah, after we get a good sear on either side, you'll notice we're gonna take it on the grill and we're gonna set it up on that fat cap to kind of let some of that fat render down and get softer.
Yeah, good call out.
All right,
these.
Switch those. Now what we'll do is we've got a little bit of, we talked about good avocado oil. So this is an avocado oil, very high smoke point. So we'll go ahead, we'll start with the Denver steak in the middle. We're just gonna give it a nice, we're not gonna like coat it on there. We're just gonna get a nice little thin layer. And then garlic pepper.
That sounds good to me.
All right, so this is a garlic pepper. Many seasoning companies, spice companies have their own garlic pepper. You could mix some fresh ground pepper with some garlic powder if you had the house. But this is a brand that I've found at my store, and it just, once again, as much barbecue and meat cooking that I do, it's easier just to get a big container of garlic pepper. I think it might, I don't know, it might have a little something else in there as well, but it's mostly garlic powder and cracked pepper.
Yeah, that smells
like
good.
this. So we're gonna go ahead, once again, kind of high, get a little good coat on there. Flip it, do the same. Put that in, and then I will go ahead and get some on the edges.
Nice. So I told you my favorite out of the group. What's yours?
I like them all, but and I guess it's gonna kind of come on the occasion. A New York strip is quick, easy weeknight dinner. Like I said, you can put it in the pan and everything. Ribeye, it's gonna be a little bit bigger. I think you need some good sides to kind of accompany that. Any of these are also great. I'm gonna have to go with the hanger steak as well. I think it's just really versatile. I like it more than I like, filet these days. I think it's really great. And like you said, these, I am a meat and potatoes kind of guy, but like these are great with salads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to top off on a salad.
That's a good way to balance, right?
Yeah.
You want to have the meat and eat healthy as well, right?
We'll put a thin layer.
And you guys heard it here. That's 2 votes for hanger steak. So you got to check it out.
Ask your butcher for a hanger steak. On our favorite, let's use a little bit of Lily's of Charleston.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Is that the beef and burger?
Yeah, this is the beef and burger seasoning. It goes great on any beef burgers. I've put it in my chili. I like to go ahead and anything.
Awesome
meatballs.
On a smash burger.
Awesome on a smash burger. It's got a little bit of. I know it's got some garlic, some pepper. I can see some salt in there. It's got a little bit of everything in there. I think it's a very good.
Sugar, I think, in there too.
Yeah, that's what it is. A little brown sugar almost, I think. And then for for that one, we're just gonna do salt, pepper, garlic.
Yeah, SPG.
Salt, pepper, garlic. All right, SPG. A little bit of salt, fresh cracked pepper, and then just pulverized garlic powder.
You know, I've had somebody ask me before about seasoning and whether or not you should be concerned about burning.
That's a good.
And I think, you know, the way that you've added oil here, that added moisture with these additional seasonings outside of salt and pepper is going to help that. And you probably need to be more cautious with burning those spices in a hot cast iron, I think, versus on a char grill.
The difference in both of those as well is you've got to look at when you're working with the skillet, you've got just a hard, flat, hot surface. When you've got the grill, you have the ability to raise or lower your grates and turn your temperature down and everything. But it takes a long time for a hot skillet to come down to temperature, even once you turn the heat off and everything. Well, all right.
Let's do it.
I think we're seasoned up. We'll let these sit for just a minute and then go check the coals and bring them out.
Yeah,
all right.
let's do it.
All right, here we go. Coals are ready. We're gonna go ahead and get our steaks down.
Oh, sounds good.
That sounds good. We'll start with the thick ones over here. Give you some room over there for those. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. There we go. So one thing we didn't really talk about was accompaniments.
Yeah.
We talked about seasoning. Of course, you're gonna finish with some salt. Be sure and check it out online, PBSCharlotte.org, and I'll have a couple other recipes for some house-made chimichurri, some herb compound butter. Jason, thanks for your help and your expertise and giving the tips and everything. We've got our steaks in here. They are finishing off. We just trap a little bit of heat as the coals are running out. I say we grab a couple plates and cold ones and take a taste of everything.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
Everything is so awesome today. I really appreciate being here. I'm so stoked to try some of the steak.
Me too, me too. Thanks for joining me at my dinner table. Please, I'll see you the next time.
A production of PBS Charlotte.